Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I am your host, Karen Stanley, and this show is all about how you can create the life that you love one day at a time. And my awesome guest is Gavin McHale. He's a personal development coach, and we're going to talk all things how to stop self-sabotaging. Gavin, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped about this. Create Today, creating the best life. This is a big thing that so many people, it's a nice idea, right? But so many people really, when you get into the nuts and bolts, they struggle with it. And I'm hoping we can help them with that today.
Me too. And we were talking about, let's leave them some tangible tools to help us get out of our own way. And then the guilt that comes with it. I think all of us can relate to that at some point of our lives, and maybe right now. So I'm excited. I just wanted to hear a little bit about your story and your journey and how you ended up being a coach.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I'll give you as short a version as I can. So my story, like, it's so fascinating how I came to be like a personal development and particularly focused on like mindset coach. And I think it's similar to the personal trainer who used to be overweight. Mindset stopped me from giving myself the chance to play professional hockey. I was really close. I'm a Canadian kid. So of course, hockey. I came really, really close and essentially orchestrated a complete meltdown over the course of one hockey season when I was like right there, right at the precipice of getting to play professional hockey. And that still didn't set me straight. I went to school, got a degree. I actually became a personal trainer because it was just the easy path, really. And
but you knew that's what you knew. You've been doing it for so long.
Exactly. It's like it was like stepping into another locker room. It was just like so easy. And then it was in trying to build that business and trying to get online and kind of have like a hybrid business of in-person online and struggling at that. And then it was really there that I started to recognize that same pattern of like, I would blame other people and my mindset. Like I couldn't really regulate my emotions. And the biggest thing is and what ended my hockey career, I couldn't deal with failure effectively. Right. Like if you look at Carol Dweck's book called Mindset, like the OG, right? It's growth mindset and fixed mindset. I was like very fixed mindset, right? If we define that, it's like I was on a stage performing. And if I failed, everyone knew I wasn't good enough, right? That was kind of my mindset. Whereas since then, and what I had to shift to, and it's taken a lot of time and continue to still work on, this is a lifelong pursuit, is 100%. That the growth mindset is more, I'm in the sandbox, I'm just messing around. And if I fail, it's really just feedback as to what's not working. And I can learn from that and grow from that. That's the growth mindset, right? So in trying to build my business, I tapped into the growth mindset, really made a shift, moved into more like business coaching on my own right around when COVID happened. A lot of fitness coaches needed help, and then got the opportunity to work with Craig Ballantyne, the Early to Rise team, which is where I met Anne, who introduced us. And through that, it has just continued to really, I've followed the yellow brick road. It's been really interesting. It's like, oh, this is the next thing. This is the next thing. This is the next thing. And this is kind of where I like to say the universe is leading me, down this interesting winding path. And now here we are where I get to go on podcasts and I get to like speak to groups in person of like really successful people about their mindset. And it's this pretzel-like twist of fate. Tim Ferriss says it in his book, Tools of the Titans, that the most successful people, most of them, actually, I think he said all of them had an obvious weakness and turned it into a competitive advantage. And I like to think I've done, or I'm in the process of doing that.
I love that. Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, like you said. And I love the idea of just looking at just reframing that failure, whatever you define as a failure, as just feedback. That can be really powerful. I'm curious, what was the antithesis? What was there a defining moment where you realized, how did you acquire the awareness that you had a fixed mindset as opposed to a growth mindset? Because that's Most people don't even know they have a fixed mindset.
Totally. And we can have a fixed mindset in certain areas of our life and growth mindset elsewhere. And there's a lot of like, it's a really dusty, dirty, like you really got to dig in and pull the pieces apart. Right.
Yes.
The big piece for me, it was really interesting was, so I had invested a bunch of money in business coaches. This was kind of before business coaching was cool, like 2016, 2017. I had invested in like 3 different coaches at that point. This is like in 2018. And I had spent like probably 30 or 40 grand that I didn't have. Money I did not have, right? This is the world we live in now as business owners and entrepreneurs. But at that time it was like, what? So I invested that and I kept seeing, and I was starting to notice, why is it that I could write a textbook on all this stuff, like how to get clients, sales, copywriting, like I could teach it. Why is it not working for me? And why is like my peer who's also in this program and learning the exact same stuff as me, why are they making like a social media post, at the time on Facebook, let's say, and it's like popping off and I'm doing the exact same thing and it's not working? Like what the heck? Right. And so I was starting to notice that. And then what actually happened was, this story does have a happy ending where we're now married, but my wife went, or at the time, my girlfriend, she went over to Australia for a contract work. It was a short contract, I think a couple months. And then I was going to go visit her after. I went to visit her after, and we did a little traveling. And when I got there, it was like, she was like, this isn't working. And it was like, I just flew across the world. Like, what's going on? Right. And it was a combination of our relationship, but also she wasn't sure what she wanted to do career wise. So, a lot of those things. And in the days following of just like what just happened, like that felt like a punch in the face. Right. I recognized that like, no matter what, with my business and with my personal life, this was the first time I recognized that I had to take responsibility for that. Like, this wasn't about her. This wasn't about, blaming my leads or potential clients or whatever. Like, I had to take radical responsibility for my life. And I started shifting, and actually like the week we got back, I had my first appointment with a psychologist. Long story short, she helped me become more aware of my emotions, like what I was actually feeling, because I had just blocked them out my whole life. And that started, then I signed up with a coach who really focused on mindset, and the snowball started building. We reconciled, we're now married, happily married, which is great. But that was really a big spark for me to like punch in the face that I needed to make the change.
Wow. It's good. We have those people that come into our lives and punch us in the face and get our act together.
Yeah. And she didn't know, like, right. She didn't know, but it was just like this, it was exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. It was what our relationship needed when we needed it. Like, it was just, it was a lot of pain, but we came through it 100 times better.
Beautiful. I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the reasons why. First of all, why do we self-sabotage? And maybe let's define self-sabotaging. So if somebody isn't like, just know that word and instantly can recognize what that is. Let's talk about, give us an example of what it is, and then why do we in the first place?
Yeah. So I think self-sabotage is something we hear, it gets thrown around as entrepreneurs, business owners, but it's like, what does it really mean? And I think what it means is, when you take action or don't take action, right? Like when you do something or don't do something that's like out of alignment with what you say you want, right? So like, I want more clients, let's say, but I'm not doing any reach outs, or I'm not preparing for sales calls. And so this is like this thing where it's like, it's very clear what is required for success, and you're not doing it, or you're doing something different from that, right? Like, I would say that is the definition of self-sabotage. It's just like, and then we go, why is this happening again? what's going on? Or we kind of even fall into the victim of like, of course this is happening again, right? Of course they said no on that sales call again, right? And then it's just spiral down the drain, right?
Yes.
And, you asked the question, like, why do we self-sabotage? I think this is summed up in one of my favorite quotes, which is from Carl Jung, who's, godfather of modern psychology, which is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And this is,
so true.
This is a lot of the work that I do, right? So if we look at the subconscious brain and the conscious brain, most people weren't taught this. Our subconscious brain is 95 to 98% of our brain. The conscious, the decision-making, all that stuff, like the logical part, is 2 to 5%. And most of us are trying to do everything with that. And there's this great book. It's almost written like a children's book, but I encourage people to check it out, called The Ant and the Elephant. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's about the subconscious and the conscious brain, The Ant and the Elephant, by a guy named Vincent Pacenti. And the way he explains it is, so if your subconscious brain is like an elephant and your conscious brain is like an ant, and it's on the back of the elephant, right? And he says something like, the ant can run east as much as it wants, but if the elephant is walking west, the ant is not going to go east. Right? So we set these goals and we change the actions that we take and all these things to go east, but the elephant is moving west, right? You're not good enough. You suck. You're a failure. You never, you're a bad salesperson, right? The subconscious is all the stories that we tell about ourselves. It's the beliefs that we have about how we fit into the world around us. And if that's not in line with what we say we want, as I've just explained it, it makes sense that we're going to self-sabotage, right? We're going to take actions in alignment with the story we're truly telling about ourselves versus what we say we want, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, everybody's screwed.
Because we all have stories. Every single one of my clients, we try to uncover the root cause of whatever the main belief is that's causing the symptom, right? So you're doing the same thing. Yep. You know you're being led by a subconscious mind, and we need to access it and figure out the story. And it's probably 50 different stories, like you said. Right. We do killer over here. We got great beliefs over here. And then we suck over here. And then we keep sabotaging over here. You're totally right on. It's all because we have so many, facets of our life.
Yeah.
So we believe we're going to self-sabotage when we deeply believe that the story, whatever the story is, and it feels like, at least in my practice, and you have to see if you agree with this, feels like the underlying is that I'm just not good enough. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, so I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. Right. And what I've done with a lot of my clients is, all of those words, good, good looking, smart, those are kind of filler words. We could really pull those out. And the real thing is, I'm not enough.
Yes.
Right. And when I drop that, like, I'll be like, oh, okay, we do the work, we get to that, like me and the client, and then I drop that bomb on them. You can just feel them go like, oh, like, you're right.
It's exactly what my mind is doing every day. Yes.
Yeah.
So they totally get it right away. And then once you have the aha moment, now let's get into the tools. Okay.
Yeah, so now what?
Now what do you do? Great. I think I suck. All right. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for the podcast. So good luck. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah. Good luck. See ya.
No. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, so how do we make the unconscious conscious? Well, we've kind of just talked about that. And what's often going to happen is we're all going to have these kind of like stories that are these things that happened to us when we were younger. I truly believe that trauma is very subjective, right? There is absolutely capital T trauma.
100%.
Totally. And I never experienced that. The stuff that is like, objectively bad, right? But I experienced like, I was a grade 7 tall, skinny, awkward kid, and I was bullied and left out. And to me, in that moment, that was trauma.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that affected the way that I acted for many, many years. Sometimes I still fall into that trigger, right?
Yeah.
And so once we pull those up and we get those stories, right? Let's just say this: 99% of you listening, your belief is probably I'm not enough. Let's just,
I would agree.
yeah. That being said, it's good to kind of like recognize where that came from sometimes, like, okay, what are the things that may have led to this, right?
Yeah.
Something that happened or mom or dad said or whatever. And it's usually when we're younger and when we're kids and when our brains are developing and we just don't have the skills to actually deal with it, right?
We don't know how to process it. We don't understand what's going on. We just developed a belief.
Right. And our brains do that. This is one other thing that we don't give it enough credit for. Like our brains do that to protect us. Right. It's like, hey, well, let me just protect you from feeling this way ever again. So I'm going to create this rule so you never have to worry about feeling this way. Cause I'm just going to create this. Yeah. So, and that's going to change your behavior. So like for me, it's like, okay, I wanted to fit in, for example, and this is a version of I'm not enough. Right. And so it's like, okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to bend your morals and your moral compass and your ethics, and you're just going to fit into every single group that you ever come into. Right. And that protected me for a long time because I never felt that feeling of left out. Everyone accepted me because I was like, well, I'm going to be accepted. Right. I'm going to force myself to be accepted until I got into the business world and the adult world where I need to be myself. Right. I need to stand for something or else you'll fall for anything. Right. So we got the belief. The best thing that I have learned. So what we need to do is we need to rewire. You need to rewire your neural patterns. Joe Dispenza talks about, neurons that fire together, wire together. Right. So we need to like rewire that, because what's happening is we fall into these patterns that continue telling the same story. I know I'm going on digressions everywhere, and I'm sorry. I just get excited.
No, I love it. It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So we have to rewire. Otherwise, that same belief is going to take the same path, and therefore your action will be the same action or non-action that you don't want. It's not going to get you what you really want.
Totally. And then you'll be left holding the bag again, going, how did this happen again? Or of course this happened again.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we need to change it. And there's a great way to do this. It's literally been named the work or self-inquiry work from Byron Katie. Karen's just like, yes. And it's 4 questions. I call it the 4 questions. And it's some version of this. This is what I use is question number 1, is this true? Right. So, okay, I've got this thing that I'm not enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough. Is it true? Right. And a lot of people, their stubborn brain starts to go, well, yeah, it might, like, yeah, it's true. Like, look at all this evidence I have in my life that it's true. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Right. And it's like, well, that's because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system that was looking for that. Your reticular activating system tells your conscious brain what to focus on. And when it has a belief, I'm not good enough, it's like, okay, great. Well, I'm just going to look for examples of that, and we're just going to focus on that. And the best example
all day, every day.
And we'll just keep on finding it. Right. And the best example of reticular activating system for anyone who's like, what is this guy talking about, is when you're looking to buy a new car and you see that car all over on the road, right? Or you're looking to buy a new house and you see for sale signs everywhere. That's your reticular activating system, right?
And you never noticed those cars. Those cars were always there the whole time.
Never noticed.
You never noticed any blue Honda Pilots until you bought a blue Honda Pilot. Because
they're everywhere. Right? You didn't need to, right? And until your reticular activating system said you need to. And so what it does is, oh, you're not good enough. You're not enough. Well, let's look for examples of that so that we can continue to prove that for you, so that we can further keep you safe, right? So is this true? It's a bit of a tricky question. And I'll encourage people, if their brain is fighting it, to say, like, write down all the evidence you have that it might be true. Because question number 2 kills it anyway. So question number 1 is this true? Question 2 is, do you know this to be true without a shadow of a doubt? Like, is it a fact that you're not good enough? Or is it possible? Is there one iota of a doubt that you might be good enough? Or that like someone else might be good enough. And if you have a growth mindset and one person could be, then so could you, right? Like it's like, is there any doubt? And right. So if anybody ever says anything other than no to that question, I'm like, give me a call. We're going to have a coaching call about it because I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because we know, you know, everyone that I've worked with that I've ever done this with is like, yeah, it's not a fact. Okay. So now I can say, okay, cool. So it's a belief. So we can, the best part about beliefs is we can choose to change it like that.
Sure can.
We can just make a decision that I'm going to tell a different story. And the next 2 questions help you do that. So question 3 is, what happens when I buy into this belief? What happens? Well, I do things and I prove to myself that I'm not good enough. I don't take action. I don't prepare as well as I could. I don't sleep well enough. I don't eat well enough. I do all these things that aren't serving me, right? And I like to call it, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's
totally.
like, I prove to myself that I'm not good enough, right? And then question number 4 is what, and I played around with the wording of this. This is my favorite wording right now, is what could happen if I chose to believe something different. So that leaves the door open for your brain to like still believe the other thing and believe something different, right? Instead of like having to like totally switch. Because one of the other big things that I've noticed is like, I tried to like just do the opposite. It's like, okay, well, I'm rich, I'm wealthy, right? And your subconscious brain's like, dude, you're
gonna go buy a boat.
yeah, it's like your subconscious brain's like, have you looked at your bank account lately? Like, you're not rich, man, right?
No.
So it's like let's find something that just serves you better than I'm not good enough, right? So it could be like, I am becoming better every day, or I'm learning every day, like some belief that just serves you better, right? So what could happen if I chose to believe something different? And then you start to realize like, whoa, like if I just chose to believe something different, I could like be the first millionaire in my family. I could like serve the community in a way that I never thought possible. I could give back. I could be a better father. I could be a better husband or wife. Like, whoa. And it's just from this changing this belief, right? So that gets people really excited. And then I say, okay, well, let's finish this sentence. The truth is what? And that's, yeah, I got ahead of myself. That's where we replace the belief with a belief that serves us better. And then the best part, which is the part most people forget. So the truth is, let's say, for example, the truth is I'm becoming better every day.
Love it.
That seems to work. Finish the sentence with because, and then give yourself some evidence that that's the case. Right.
Love that.
Yeah. And I think that's the missing component for a lot of mindset work. Alex Hormozi has a great quote about confidence, which really is mindset work. Is confidence work. Is like, you don't become confident screaming affirmations in the mirror. You need an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are.
So true.
We need the proof. So if I say I'm becoming better every day, okay, because let's look for some past evidence where I became better. Well, you know, I learned this skill and I did this and I got better at this. And I did make that sale the other day. Okay, cool. So now we're like starting to get some evidence. And if you don't have any evidence from your own experience, which you do, but if you can't find it, then you can look to other people. You know, is there someone that you look up to that might have done the thing that you want to do? Again, if they can do it, why can't you? Right. So find that evidence. And then you have to go, like I tell people, like, put it in your phone, look for evidence that I am good enough, or look for evidence that I'm becoming better every day. And like actively like write down that evidence, you know, every day. Cause now we're like, again, we're rewiring the new pattern.
Takes time.
Yeah. And that's the part, there's zero hack there. Exactly. Like I can't hack it for you.
The mind learns by repetition, and that's the only way. So we have to have the reps, just like everything else. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Does that like, because I know you have a lot of experience with this, does that land for you as well? Because I've always been trying to think like, is there a quicker way, a simpler way? I find the 4 questions to be valuable in having people inquire within themselves for it.
I 100% agree. And I love the questions, and you really do have to get there anyway. You have to take the old belief and turn it into the new belief. So I like the steps instead of just jumping from, you have, negative $400 in your bank account. Like you just said, you can't just wake up and say, I'm rich, I'm wealthy,
Right.
Abundance everywhere. I'm going to take my, date out to a super fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
And get more into debt because I'm wealthy. So we can't just jump from there to there. And we need some help getting to the new neural pathways. And some of my clients are single and they really want to attract a mate. And so what we really work on is exactly what you're talking about. The beliefs that you developed in all of your past relationships, the beliefs that you developed in viewing all of your, family's relationships, and the beliefs that you have about the future. Because of those beliefs, you won't believe that there's an amazing man out for you or an amazing woman out there for you. And then we have to look for evidence. So I literally coach on looking for evidence, like constantly, because you have to have repetition. You can't just look for one evidence. Oh yeah, that's right. It did make that one sale back in January of 21.
Right.
That's not enough. You've done a lot of different things since then.
Yeah.
And you constantly have to remember and rewind them. And it's exactly, we're speaking the same language. I love it.
Beautiful. I'll even, with the looking for evidence piece. So, because I'm sure a lot of the people, if you're listening to a podcast like this, you're what I would consider, you think like a high performer. So you're like me and you want to win, right? You're like, I want to win. I'm a winner. Right. So we think that the wins need to be these like huge things, right? Like, I had a client, he sells like $10,000 to $25,000 packages. This is like his business. And I said, he was struggling with his belief a little bit. And I said, what are the wins for you? Like, how do you define a win? And basically the only thing that he could come up with was when he makes a sale. And I'm like, well, you make like 1 sale a week and that's like a good week, maybe 2. So we're only getting 1 or 2 wins a week at best. Like, we need to redefine a win. And so, for example, I'll give you this perfect example. I tell this so often, but it's such a perfect example. When I started working for Craig Ballantyne at Early to Rise, he had this one client who was like, he was talking about him a lot. His name's Joe Marcoux. I'll give him a shout out. And he lives in the same city as me. This like randomly lives in the same city as me in Canada. So I was like, I'm taking this guy out to breakfast. Like I'm getting in the same energy space as this guy. So we have breakfast. We have a great chat and we're walking outside after breakfast. We're walking to our cars and we're kind of like mid sentence and he stops, he spots a dime on the ground. Right. And he makes a beeline over to it. This guy is like, makes a 7 figures a year. Like this guy is huge business. He makes a beeline. He doesn't need a dime. No. He makes a beeline over this dime. He picks it up. He holds it up to the sky and in like an awkwardly loud voice in public goes, "Thank you, God, for this example that money is always flowing to me."
Wow.
And I'm like,
brilliant.
Holy shit. You just like jaw on the floor. I can't believe that like this just happened. And it's such a perfect example that we can turn anything we want into evidence that we are moving in the right direction. We just sometimes need a perspective shift, right? That like even this tiny little thing that I found a dime could mean that I'm meant to be a millionaire. It could mean nothing, or it could mean that I'm meant to be a millionaire. And
you could have walked right by it and just ignored it. Oh, there's a dime.
Whatever. I don't need it. Who cares? Right. Yes. And it's a great reminder for people, if you're coaching with me or if you're coaching with Karen and we're saying, go look for evidence, to go like actively look for the stuff that you think like is like so obvious, right? Like sometimes I'll do my gratitude practice. I'll be like, I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have a warm bed to sleep in every night, right? Like we forget about that stuff. I'm grateful that I pay taxes because that means I make money, right? So these things that we don't think about can be evidence that we are on the right path. We just forget. And again, our reticular activating system's so busy looking for reasons why we're not good enough that it forgets to look for reasons for the positive things, right?
Yes. So as you work toward creating the new neural pathways and looking for evidence and practicing looking for evidence every day, what if you kind of, for some of us who, yes, we jump on and I'm going to do this and, I'm going to keep writing my notes, and, a week or two goes by and we forget a day or two, and we kind of always, we all know we have to practice everything. There's no end, there's no finish line. Just like working out, it's impossible to get fit and then stop going to the gym. It doesn't work. You're not going to stay fit. It's impossible. And we forget that the brain is the same thing. It's not the same thing. You know what I mean? It still needs the repetition, no matter what it is. Okay. So, but say you have a client who's done really well for a couple of weeks, they're feeling better and they're doing some good actions, and then they kind of start to fall off. How do you recalibrate?
Yeah. So you touched on something that's so important when you said there's no finish line.
Zero.
I have, up until a couple of years ago, and a coach called me forward on this, I was always of the belief that when I finished, when I got the thing that I wanted, I could just put my feet up on my desk, lean back, crack a beer. I'm good. I'm done.
And I wish that were true.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Right. And he's like, you're not done, man. Like, in fact, it's probably just starting. And so when you mentioned no finish line, it reminded me of Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of us, I grew up playing sports. Sports is a perfect example of a finite game.
Yes.
Right? So hockey is a finite game. Baseball is a finite game. There's rules, there's opponents, and the game is played to be finished.
It's a time limit too.
Yeah. Like you play the game and there's a clear winner and a clear loser, and it's over at a certain time, right? That's a finite game. Unfortunately, business, fitness, marriage, and life are infinite games, which, as Simon Sinek explains, like there isn't really set rules. There's no like set opponents, and the game is played to continue to be played. Yes. Right. Like the way to quote unquote win at fitness is to stay fit, to not die. Right. The way to win at marriage is to stay married, to not get divorced. Right.
Yes.
And the way to win at business really is to stay in business and to provide your family and the other families that you support with a living.
Yes.
Unfortunately, those of us who are high performers, I call this the plight of the high performer. We apply finite rules to an infinite game. Yeah. It's like, if I just go really hard for this short period of time, then I'll be done and I'll be over and I can move on to the next thing. Or this, like the if then thinking, right? If I do this, then this will happen. And it's just like this, because our whole lives, we've like dragged it by the collar and just taken control and pulled it along. Right. And it's like, no, like you need to let go of control, that like the thing you think or the thing you want is going to happen, that's going to happen. You just need to like do the next right thing and like continue to follow the yellow brick road and allow this to unfold in the way that it's supposed to unfold. And that's where it does get a little spiritual. And so I that's why I use the word like the universe or life. So, whether you believe in God or not, or whatever religion you are, is like, you have to trust that the universe is going to take care of you. Yeah. And like that when you surrender, it just takes so much faith to like surrender, that like what I need and what I want is coming to me in the exact way and timing that it's supposed to come. And that's so hard.
It's so hard, the timeline and not being able to control it. But you're right. I love how you said once you surrender, I think also it takes the energy away from that. I struggle with this. This will always be my struggle. I think I will have to continuously work on this. I would like for things to happen faster than they do. That's my personal preference. That's in my DNA.
Absolutely.
I literally have to work on this all the time. So I am preaching to my own choir, me. But yes, that no finish line really helps me. That came from John Maxwell when I heard him talk 7 years ago. I think it was at 10. And I was blown away because here's somebody who's 74 and has released 80 best-selling. He's literally the expert on leadership and personal development. And he's saying that there's no finish line. And I'm thinking, holy shit, he's saying that.
I'm trying to be done here after like 10 years. Like,
I want to be done.
Right.
Then I'm like, done with what? What do you mean done? Like, you're like saying you have to redefine all of these things, all the rules, the game that we think that's finite, and even like being done. What does that mean? Like my husband's 67. He's been running car dealerships forever. And people always ask him, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? And he's like, and do what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just play golf 9 days a week. I would die of boredom. What is retirement? I don't even see the benefit of retiring. It's just like, sounds fun for like a week.
Well, so like my parents were both sold on that dream, right? So like my mom was a teacher, my dad was a cop. They're both retired now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're bored out of their minds. They have no idea what to do. But here's the thing, they earned that boredom, right? Like they're like, but we earned this. We worked. This is what we were promised. And they're like, this kind of sucks. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be like this, right? And it's like, so if you think it's like, as you said, as your husband says, like, and this is even debatable, you're done when you're dead. Like, that's even debatable depending on what you believe in, right? Is like, you know, that's the only time that the game is over. Maybe.
Maybe.
Right?
We don't know.
So
it's awesome. So we are defining the rules, and we're defining, how did you say it? You said it so brilliantly, and I can't remember. When we have a belief about X, Y, or Z story, and we're trying to look for the evidence that that's not true, so we can build the belief that we are good enough, and we're working towards this every day.
Like finding evidence, finding proof.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how do you advise writing this down on a daily basis? What kind of process is it that works the best?
Yeah, the process that has worked for me and for a lot of my clients is like actively looking for it and recording it somewhere on a daily basis, like the evidence. And this, you know, anyone who knows like the 4 stages of competence, right? There's like unconscious incompetence, which is like, you don't know what you don't know. And then there's conscious incompetence. Like, I know there's a problem, but I don't know how to fix it. And then this is where most people are, right? It's conscious competence. So, okay, I know there's a problem. I have the tools to fix it. And I've changed the belief, but you still need to be really conscious and like actively involved in
like forcing it,
doing the thing. Yeah. Like you almost like need to be like weird about it, you know, like, why is this thing popping up on your phone saying like, you are good enough, you are loved? Like, what's that? Like, and why do you have a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror? Like, you know, those are the things though, that like when we're in conscious competence, everyone wants to jump to the last stage, which is unconscious competence, where you just are different.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen overnight.
Nope.
Right. So I say like, okay, put it in your phone, put reminders everywhere of your affirmations. And then like, you're constantly looking for evidence. And the best way is to write it down or to like share it with somebody. So a lot of my clients, I'll be like, hey, send me an email or a WhatsApp or whatever. daily with your piece of evidence. If I don't hear from you by the next morning at 8 a.m., I'm sending you a message saying, hey, what evidence did you find yesterday?
Love
right?
it.
And it's a bit of a pain, but like once you do that for a couple weeks, then you don't need to be as actively involved and you're like still finding it. And then once you do it, I find for like 2 to 3 months, then you kind of like don't need the reminder anymore. And then what I find happens is some point between 3 and like 9 months, you wake up one day and you're like, I'm a different version of myself. Whoa.
Yes. I love it.
Right? Like,
And it's
whoa, but it
gradual.
takes time.
Yes. And it's gradual. You're right. It's like, if we can just
Yeah.
remind ourselves of that belief that things happen fast, that's also a false belief. Nothing amazing happened fast. So nothing. You can look in gardening. You can talk how much time it makes to create a human. 9 months. You're going to try to hurry up making, growing apples on your apple tree. There's nothing you can do to speed it up. You got to watch.
Nature's
Yeah.
the best example. Like
It
nature is
really
such a
is.
good example that like, I mean, we're coming into winter right now in Canada. Like the leaves are off the tree. Like it sheds its leaves for half the year so that it can regenerate for the other half, like for the next year. Like it takes time. It
Yes.
takes time.
I love it. And it's also possible. So that's the other important, is believing that changing slowly over time is absolutely possible, and absolutely people are doing it, every day. And if you need help and you need a coach, definitely reach out to Gavin. What's the best place to find you? On Instagram?
Or reach out to Karen. Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
don't want hypnotherapy. They think it's weird. Hypnotherapy is weird, and that's fine. But yes.
But when they get there, they're bought in, which is nice, right? Like when they get to hypnotherapy, they're like, help me, right?
Yeah, it's so much like meditation, and it really just calms your mind so you can access the subconscious, and it's wonderful. I love it.
It's an incredible tool.
Working on myself, with my own list.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, two things I'll tell you. So Instagram at Gavin McHale 1, go check it out. I share like short form stuff, but that's just like tip of the iceberg stuff.
Yeah.
I want to share, if you can put it in the show notes. We have a daily money attraction visualization. So, and what's important about this is it's not just about money, it's about abundance.
Yes.
And it's 9.5 minutes. We made sure that it was like doable when you're going for a walk or something too. So like you don't have to lie down in a dark room. Like you can do this anytime. We made it so easy that you like have to do it. Dailymoneyattraction.com should pop you through to the YouTube video. I can also share with you the YouTube link if you want, Karen, the direct one, but dailymoneyattraction.com should take you there. 9.5 minutes. You get to listen to my wonderful voice, and we're just retraining your reticular activating system to look for and see abundance everywhere.
I love that. Thank you so much, Gavin. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom with my listeners. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. And remember that you can create the life that you love just one day at a time. Yes. One false belief at a time, right, Gavin?
That's it. One piece of evidence at a time. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, if you're listening to this still, thank you for listening to us ramble. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Have a great day.